Okay. Hello everybody. Today I'm going to be doing a presentation on a Salmonella outbreak that occurred within pistachios. So some background information on the topic. On March 2009, the FDA alerted the CDC on the occurrence of a Salmonella outbreak that came from multiple samples of contaminated pistachios from a company called Wonderful Pistachios. Several strains of the bacterium were found, including Montevideo, Newport, and Seftonburg. These products were recalled, however, due to their long shelf life, they may still be present in people's homes. Due to this outbreak, the CDC has been very keen on determining whether there's a link between the two factors. To determine the prevalence of Salmonella in pistachios, a study evaluated around 4,000 pistachios, and of those rough 4,000, 32 were positive for Salmonella. Strength in determining the correlation between Salmonella and pistachios is interventional epidemiological studies that observe the occurrence of the disease in pistachios and attempt to draw a conclusion as to whether it is a cause of Salmonella. Weakness, however, is that people tend to underreport Salmonella due to its vague nature. The symptoms are a lot like a flu, and because of this, people will brush them off. Opportunity in preventing Salmonella would be through hygiene protocols or finding a way to evade the presence of the bacterium within the pistachio nut. Threat is the potential for foodborne pathogens to contaminate the crops if the plants are not consistent with their hygiene protocols. Kraft Foods paid a visit to the Pistachio California plant and discovered that roasted pistachios were not kept separate from raw unroasted nuts. Raw pistachios do carry pathogens, and these pathogens are killed once they have been roasted. The nuts can also be contaminated through a variety of other ways, such as being on trees, bird poop, contaminated irrigation water, or contamination during harvest. Dirty transportation containers or even problems in processing facilities can worsen these contamination issues. So through the implementation of good agricultural practices, the opportunity for pathogens to contaminate will be reduced. Specifically, a site and crop-specific assessment of risks for contamination and an evaluation that follows will further serve to minimize risks. So basically, a crop-specific assessment and evaluation would be to make sure that companies are doing what they have to do to make sure that Salmonella isn't easily found on pistachios. Due to the fact that most tree nuts are harvested from the ground, it'd be beneficial to reduce these factors that would lead to contamination from the soil and floor in time of harvest. The social ecological model can be applied here because we're looking past the individual level to make changes on an organizational level, or even take it a step further and make this a public health policy. Alternative solutions would be basic prevention methods, such as cleaning your hands thoroughly with soap and warm water before handling food, and cleaning surfaces before preparing food on them. Don't use utensils on cooked foods that were previously used on raw foods, and don't place cooked foods on plates where raw foods were once kept. Cook foods to a safe internal temperature and utilize the meat thermometer to make sure foods are cooked to a safe temperature. So recommendations include emphasizing the need to keep roasted pistachios away from non-roasted pistachios and implementing good agricultural practices. To the general public, don't consume these pistachios, and if your symptoms are reflecting those of the Salmonella bacterium, seek guidance from your medical doctor. So a little detailed into the action plan would be to make sure that field employees are aware of food safety risks through on-site training programs. And they should have ready access to sanitary facilities. Through education and better training, good agricultural practices can be implemented to make sure a Salmonella outbreak like this doesn't occur again in pistachios. So this plan can take anywhere from 1 to 3 years to be effectively applied. So pistachios are a common delicacy that Americans savor, and upon consuming the pistachio, we shouldn't be worried about things like, am I going to get infected with Salmonella? That should be the least of our worries. Through good agricultural practices and keeping roasted pistachios separate from raw ones, Salmonella can be prevented. Consumers can also take it a step further and implement these basic hygienic practices in their own homes to avoid being infected through simple things like washing hands with warm water or keeping even a raw cookie dough spoon separate from a dry sugar spoon, and cooking foods thoroughly to eliminate any active bacteria. So basically there are two ways to go about this solution. We either pressure the companies to implement good agricultural practices so that they take all the necessary steps before producing a batch of pistachios to make sure that any of the pistachios are not infected with a strain of Salmonella. And then, like a more individual basis, consumers can try to take matters into their own hands while companies are trying to go about their good agricultural practices, and consumers can wash their hands and make sure surfaces are very clean, because that is a way that you can prevent things from occurring in the first place. So these are my references: the CDC, FDA, and Empress Food Safety. I do hope you enjoyed this presentation, and I hope you learned something. Thank you for tuning in.